There's like this cherished 2-week break that is amazing, and I love it. And we could go out of town. We have the time to do that, but I like to stay home. I like to slow down. I like to take time and just be with our family and relax and reset. So we even set up our Christmas traditions around this. When I was a kid, we would run around to lots of different places. So we had 3 Christmases on Christmas Day. Sorry, I played Christmas. I don't like it. 3 Christmases on Christmas Day. So we'd get up, we had to be, we'd open our presents really fast, and we had to be at Grandma's house by 10. So then we would enjoy breakfast, see all the family, and we had to leave that one early, and then on to our other grandparents' house. And one year I know we even had 8 Christmases all together, not one day, but that was just what we did. We rushed, and there's a lot of stress that goes with that. There's the, and as a kid it wasn't as bad, but there's the bringing the gifts and the bringing the side dishes and totally having everything ready to go and rushing around to see everyone. And I always felt like I was leaving early and not enjoying it. And as much as I love those family times, I didn't like the rush of it. So we've set up our Christmas tradition a little bit differently because of that. On Christmas Day, we still do all of our other Christmases, but we make sure that we only have 1 per day, so there's no rushing. And then on Christmas Day, I open up our house, and the only rule is that there's no rules. There's no set time to come over. There's no set meal. Nobody has to bring anything. We usually make a soup the day before, and we just sit around. We relax, and we laugh, and we nap. And we enjoy each other's presence. And then the other thing we like to do, and we started this a couple years ago, is we puzzle. It's like, I like to turn it into a verb. We puzzle. So we started this a couple years ago, and every year as a Christmas shopping, I pick out a puzzle. And it's usually like a really brightly colored one because I want it to cheer me up. And then on Christmas Day, we sit around and we puzzle. This year we had 7 different people at one point, arms all in this tiny table trying to reach in and do our puzzle together. It got a little bit crazy. Nobody could really see anything, but it was fun. And so, you know, I understand some people say putting a puzzle together is stressful. I get that. For others, it's a brain activity. For me, the reason I choose to do it is it's a reminder to slow down. It's one activity I can't do fast. I like to do things fast. I like to knock out lists. I'm a person that has a mission and tries to get things done. But a puzzle forces me to slow down and look at each piece, examine the details, and really think about what's happening. And so I have to sit. I have to focus. And so that's why every year I sit and I do a puzzle. So this is the one we did for Christmas. It was actually way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Lots of different colors and swirls, but I like to do this during my season of stillness, and that's what I think of as my 2-week break, my season of stillness. So it's a time to get to slow down and connect with God. So when Larry asked if I wanted to do a sermon this year, I looked at all the topics, and I thought, oh yeah, week 1, Reboot series, Be Still and Listen. That is my jam. Sign me up for that one. I am all about this topic. I lead a very busy life, as most of you guys know. I have lots of kids running around and all the things. Work keeps me very busy. I'm just busy all the time. So I yearn, I crave for quiet time, for stillness, for listening to God. And so I thought this will be perfect. This is my puzzle season. This is my time for New Year's resolutions. This will be the exact thing that I need at this time. And I can talk about this. I've done this before. I've done FCA devotions on it. Last week, Brittany, our worship leader, mentioned that the finding the word of the year. And I love to do this. Every year I don't have my yet. I'm still thinking about it. But I spend a few days and I just kind of figure out where I feel like God's leading me that year, and that's my word. And I've had bold, and I've had surrender. And one year I had the phrase, be still. So I felt like I had a really good understanding of this topic and this message. And could bring something to it. And I looked back over my charts, and it was like, how do we get back? Because I make charts. How do we get back on track every year when you do New Year's resolutions? And I've got my less of this less electronics, less busyness, more family time, more healthy eating, all the charts. And I was thinking about this, like, how do we, as a church, get back on track? How do we get to have that stillness and reboot with God? So, I started looking into the sermon topic and thinking about how do we slow down, how do we reset and realign our focus with God. And I was convinced that I needed to quiet my world so I could hear what God had to tell me. I thought that's what this sermon's going to be about. How do I get the world quiet? How do I stop so I can hear what God has to tell me? And there's biblical backing for that. Our series title is Reboot. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about rebooting. And whenever I see this word or think about this word, I think about the school I visited in Colorado. They had this really cool team of students that would go out and they would help teachers whenever they had a technology issue. So instead of just the one person in the building, they sent kids out, which was so smart. It gave them experience. They could handle a lot of the small stuff, and if it didn't work, then they could call in the big guys. But my best memory of this is they had these giant green buttons that said, "Have you tried turning it off and on and off again?" Which I love, because that is the first thing every technology person is going to ask you when you call them and say, every time you call a girl, she's like, "Did you try to reboot it?" I did. I turned it on and off again. And it's true, because as an owner of devices, that's what we have to do. If something is running sluggishly, if it won't open apps, if it's stuck on something, you've got to power it down and reboot. And oftentimes that takes care of it. And I don't know why, but it does. In cell phones, I don't hardly turn mine off. I don't know if you guys do very often, but I looked it up. Experts actually recommend that you reboot once a week, which kind of sounds familiar, something God would ask us to do. So there's some timing in this. We need to get back on track and reboot. So how do we do that? Well, if you're like me, you might be running sluggishly. You might be stuck on something. We just need to turn it off and on again. We need to reboot. We need to reset and restore. And here are some things that the word says about this. So I've included for you guys at the tables today, the first 3 verses, I just have the chapter and the verse, but then after that, I went ahead and printed out because there's some longer passages. So if you want those to reference as we go through things today. And then if you are, do we have any online visitors right now? If you're online, these slides are actually in the document section.
thebridgehc.org/documents.
thebridgehc.org/documents. You should be able to find these so that you can reference the verses as we go through. We're going to be hitting a lot of scripture tonight, so you'll want to have that up and ready to go. So this first one, I'm sure you guys, a lot of you have heard, verse 2 especially. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So that idea of resting and restoring. And notice there's that water reference. It's not something I'm going to get into tonight, but if you pay attention throughout tonight's scriptures, you're going to see a lot of water references. So that's just kind of a bonus. Isaiah 40:31. But they who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint. So we see that idea of waiting on the Lord, letting him renew our strength. That's a theme we will see throughout the night as well, and getting our energy back, rebooting. And finally, in Hebrews 4:11, let us therefore strive to enter that rest, so that no one may fall by the same sort of disobedience. And I think that's kind of an interesting verse. That's going to be one of the questions tonight if you want to discuss that. Why do you think God talks about entering into rest as a way to stay away from disobedience? easy to get bogged down, to feel depleted, to not be running at full capacity. Just like our computers, we've got to reboot. The Lord asks us to rest. He's telling us that if we don't rest, we might fall into disobedience. And in that rest, he will restore us. He restores our strength. So our series is how to get back on track with God and reboot. As we explore this topic for the next few weeks, we're going to really focus on being still. And that's going to be a part of our reboot. So here's our questions for the first section. The first one is just that generic. What do you think? What stands out? What questions do you have about what I talked about? Or what does that make you think of? 2, what helps you center on God and how do you reboot? 3, God promises that rest and restoration. Think about that verse in Hebrews. Why do you think God asks us to rest so we don't disobey? How can one be related to the other? And then in Psalm 37, he asks us to be still and wait patiently. When was the last time you were still? And how can you find ways to be still with God? I'm going to give you 10 minutes to discuss this, and then we'll come back together. So here I want to consider some ways that you can reboot, restore, and rest. We'll continue with that idea tonight. And remember, that's our series that we're going into for the next several weeks. But tonight, I really want to focus in on 2 words in particular in the Bible. When you think about quiet and resting, you might think about that verse, be still and know that I am God. So I have to tell you, I was really excited to talk about this, be still, listen. I had this whole idea in my head. I went home and was telling my cult theory, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do journaling, and there's going to be quiet time, I'm going to color code, and it was going to be beautiful. Because I thought this was going to be about getting quiet, listening to God. And I thought, okay, this is going to be perfect. It'll fit with our idea of rebooting, restoring, the whole thing. And so I eagerly got up the next morning at 6 a.m. and I just started researching. And I went into the meaning of be still, and it threw me in a whole new direction that I did not expect. And God's really good at that. And so I can't wait to share with you what I learned in this wild mess. I had to go from way out here and try to funnel it down deep. So tonight I do have the paper with the verses on it in front of you as we go through this next section, because there's a lot we're going to hit as we go through. So first of all, you don't have to know all of this, but Hebrews, there's only 7 times that the Hebrew word is translated to be still. If you pull together all the different translations, you might find about 14. But traditionally, in your most common translations, it's actually only in there about 7 times. And the most common meaning is to be silent, to be unable to speak. So it's not really about a physical movement, which is what I've associated it with. It's really about being quiet. It can mean to rest here. And then we have this weird outlier down here that talks about leaving it alone. And we'll get into that in the 3rd section. So there are 2 times in Psalms that I want to draw your attention to where God uses this as an instruction to draw near to him. So in Psalm 4:4, it says, tremble and do not sin. When you're on your bed, search your heart and be still. Sometimes you'll see silence. And then in Psalm, did I go forward to that? That's not on there yet. Hold on. In Psalm 37, it says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. So these 2 moments use the word demon, which is that first one, be silent, unable to speak. We are instructed to get quiet before God. In Psalm 4, we're instructed to search our hearts and be quiet. In Psalm 37, we're told to be silent and wait patiently for the Lord. That seems simple enough, but it's not really, is it? Getting quiet, as we talked about, waiting. So what I want to do, though, is not just stop there. I want to look at that in the whole context of the psalm and see what's happening. Because when we do that,
there's this really cool trend that emerges. So I'm going to read through this and then kind of talk through what's happening. Psalm 4. Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. How long will you people turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. Tremble and do not sin. When you're on your bed, search your hearts and be still. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. Fill my heart with joy when their new grain and new wine abound. In peace, I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Yes, if I want to go to 37, and then we'll talk about trends. Psalm 37, and this is just the first part of it, verses 1 through 8. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong, for they are like grass, they wither soon, or they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your ways to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it only leads to evil. For those who are evil will be destroyed. For those who have hope in the Lord will inherit the land. A little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found, but the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity. So I've kind of color-coded this a little bit for you. It's hard to keep on there. There's this trend in both Psalms. People are in distress. They start out, they're trembling, they're scared, they're in distress. And then if you look at it, green, there are references of the Lord has set apart. We're talking about the Lord's righteousness. And remembering to do good, those things that God has asked us to do. And he asks us in the middle of both of them to be still, to stay quiet, to stay silent, and wait for the Lord and trust him. You see, the word trust is in both Psalms. Then, kind of near the 3/4 way through, both of them talk about let the light of your face shine on us, or the reward shine like the dawn. God's light is coming in. And then interestingly, in both of them, you will find references to what he's going to bring to you. He's going to bring peace, is mentioned in both of them. Safety is directly mentioned in both of them. And then various forms of prosperity. It directly says prosperity, but it also says desires of your heart, grain and new wine abound, fill my heart with joy. There's multiple references. And so you have this framework that we're working in. What do we make of this? Why does God use the word be still so few times? And what is he actually asking us to do with that? So here's what I'm taking away from that. When we're in fear, we are to cling to him, to trust him, to remember our righteousness, and to be silent. Because that's what be still actually means, be silent. And he's actually not saying, so I can tell you something. He's saying, then I will bring you peace. I will bring you safety. I will bring you prosperity. And I am not one to get up and do a prosperity sermon, but it's there and it's in the word, and I can't ignore that he's asking us to do that. He's instructing us to be silent in the midst of our fears and to trust him. So this leads us into our questions this time. The first one's the same. What do you want to talk about? What do you make of this? And maybe just kind of focusing on those two Psalms next to each other is a good place to start. Number 2, have you had a season in which you were asked to be still and wait? Are you willing to share? Are you still in that season? Have you seen the fruit of that season? In other words, has God brought you that peace, safety, or some fulfilled promise? Number 3, God seems to work in a way that asks us to be still and wait patiently when he's getting ready for something big. What other examples from the Bible can you think of where God has followed this pattern? Take 10 minutes.
So we've talked about resting, we've talked about rebooting, and part of this is to be quiet, as we talked about, to silence ourselves. God wants us to be still when we are feeling fear or just waiting on things. So I want to share with you 2 more examples, though, of be still in the Bible. And this is where it's really, really good. So this is where my little sweet journaling activity did not make it into tonight. So I came up on this. You guys, this is the sign. Like, people make this verse in signs. We see it all the time. Be still and know that I'm God. It's from Isaiah 46. And it's really a very famous one. And it's a good reminder. And most of the time when I see that, I think, okay, I need to get quiet, to stop moving, I need to focus on God, and remember his presence. But is that really what the verse is telling us? And that's what I challenge us tonight to look into this. So this is the only time in the Bible that the Hebrew word rapha is used, and it's translated to be still in this way. So that was the weird outlier at the bottom of the chart earlier. This word actually means leave alone. So it's much more of a command. And it's not talking about our mouths anymore. And this will make a little bit more sense when we enter into the context of the chapter. So this is on the back, I believe, of that for you guys. Psalm 46, if you're at home, I'm going to open up to Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her, and she will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice, and the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes war cease to the ends of earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. He says, be still and know I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. I just get chills. The fact that be still is in the middle of that. So in verse 1 through 3, we have the earth giving way, earthquakes, mountains falling into the sea, oceans surging and foaming. In verse 6, we have nations in uproar, kingdoms falling. So basically, the world's falling apart. That's what's happening. We have natural disasters and we have war. This sounds a little familiar. The phrase, be still, comes in the midst of battle, of oceans turning, nations in uproar. Lord, he says, be still, stop, leave it alone. In other words, surrender this, let me take care of this. What a powerful image. God's saying, I've got this, which is funny. I heard Larry say that a minute ago too. He is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble, it says. So this is where God totally blew my mind. He still changes. It's no longer a phrase of just get quiet and be restored, which he wants us to do. And he promises to help us with that. But here, be still becomes a command from God to sit back and let him show off. He's got this. He's going to win the battle. No matter what craziness is going on, be still. Step down. Let him do it. He is in control.
One other place I have to share, because it's a really cool parallel. Like I said, there's only 7 times it's used in the Bible. So the other time is when we're in Exodus 14, and this is the famous scene of the Red Sea parting, and the Israelites are scared to death, and they're fleeing from the Egyptians. And they're kind of freaking out. And God says, "Why are you crying out to me?" Like he's got this, and he has to remind the Israelites of this over and over and over again. In Exodus 14:3, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." So again, we see, I've got this. You guys be still. And he stretches out his arms, as God asked him to do. The sea parts. They go through it. The sea starts to collapse as the Egyptians are going through it. But I love what the Egyptians say, the enemy. They say, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Wow, that's it. Even the enemies recognize it. Let God fight for you. He can separate the waters. He can defeat your enemies. And the Israelites responded. As they saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in Moses and his servants. So again, you see that same framework. Be still, trust, God's got it. And he's going to bring you to prosperity. So, stand firm, trust in God, be still, let him take control, let him defeat the enemies. So be still, that sweet little verse that was my word of the year a few years ago, so that I could get quiet and have not busyness in my life, will never be the same for me. God isn't asking us just to get quiet, but to do it in the midst of battle, to do it in the midst of chaos, to be still and to let God. That's what we are called to do. So this last set of questions, number 2, be still, changes from a point of rest and waiting to a command of leaving a situation alone. Why do you think God commands us to be still in the midst of a battle? What would happen if we didn't? Number 3, in the passages, be still. What specific images were strongest for you? With be still, sorry. Were they of nature? What did you picture as you read the various verses we used tonight? Psalm 4, Psalm 37, Isaiah 46, or Exodus 14. What were the commonalities? And then this is probably my favorite one. And it requires a little more work. Read Mark 4:39. This is the time that Jesus uses the words be still, and it's in a very different way, but it kind of lines up with what we're talking about. How is it similar to what we have learned, and how is it different? As the rest and reboot, let him restore your strength. We all sometimes get dragged down, and whether that's a New Year's resolution or a word of the year, this is just a really good time to do that reset with God. So power down, let him power you back up and restore you and get you back on track. We all get pulled one way or another, whether that's busyness or tiredness or distractedness or laziness. Life can pull us away from God, so we need to just be still and remove. I'm going to turn it over.
All right. Nice. Just turn it over. Thank you so much, Brooke. You guys are awesome. One of the things I've learned in the last 20 years of doing ministry is that a space is never yours. And I love the fact that we get to share this space with other gifted people called by God to preach. And Brooke definitely has that gift. And I'm so glad that she has shared that with us. Every week, for those who have been with us, you know what's about to happen. If you're new with us, every week we have a time of response. And the response is not something that we manufacture, but something that God places on your heart. So look at your table. On your table, you'll see a piece of paper that will tell you the different options that we have available for you tonight, right now, to make a decision or a response to what God has been speaking to you through His Word and through Brooke's sermon. If you would like to take communion with us, you are more than welcome to do that. Communion is right up here up front. We usually meet behind the TV. I will be leading that tonight. So if you would like to have communion with us, you're more than welcome to join us back here. If you would like to have prayer, I'm going to ask Vicki to lead that. That will be in the back. Just go to the back and offer prayer requests up. Vicki will pray with you, or anything that's on your heart, or prayer for. Pray with you. If you'd like to have a conversation about what we've heard tonight, or maybe it's one of the questions that you want to ask, Brooke will be out in the hallway to answer those questions. She's the best one to answer those questions, so she'll be out there for you. And if you would like to help with what God is doing here, we always offer a chance for you to give money to help this mission, help this church reach its goal of reaching the unchurched, bringing healing to this county through God's word. The black box is in the back towards the door. Leave cash or check, or you can give online. The QR code on the piece of paper on your desk, on your tables, will lead you to that site as well. All right. Or if you want to leave, as we always say, leaving without doing any of these options is completely okay, completely valid. We respect that. We do hope that you come back next week as we continue into our Reboot series. All right, guys, we're going to dismiss now for you to do whatever it is that God is asking you to do. We will see you all